It's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we are back with the second in the Invasion Saga, The Soldiers of Fear. This is TNG number 41, written by Dean Wesley Smith and Christine Catherine Roosh. Uh, so, now we are into the TNG era, and we come, some 80 years later from the original invasion of the Furies. And we get to see the TNG crew deal with them in this one. So this book is quite a bit different from the first one, definitely. Uh, Definitely more of a focus on like the less on the Furies and more on the crew and like the effect that they're having on them. So, but very good all in all. As you can see, this book has taken a bit of a beating. It was sprayed with a hose, but we dried it out, and other than just a little fluffing up, it'll be fine. So now the other thing about this book is I started it on the 6th, and I just finished it tonight. But also with reading this, I've been playing the fantastic new game Baldur's Gate 3, which is kind of sucking up all my time too. So I wasn't able to focus, I guess, on this as much as I normally would with this other wonderful thing filling up my mind. But uh, all in all, it was a very interesting book and not like totally action packed. The end had some very good action in it, but just like a very kind of good look at like the crew and how they respond to this fear, which is like the center of the whole thing here. So anyway, let's read the cover. So this is book 2 in the ultimate Star Trek saga. After a century of peace, the Fury returns. The soldiers of fear. Long ago, before the dawn of civilization, they were banished to the realm of nightmares. Now, the terrors are real. A generation ago, another Starship Enterprise fought off a ship of exiled aliens intent on conquering all of the Alpha Quadrant. Starfleet thought that the foe had been repelled forever until now. The Furies have returned in mighty warships even more powerful than before, but their weapons are more than merely physical, for these aliens are the origins of all the demons and monsters of ancient myth, and they have found a way to project fear directly into the minds of their enemies. To defeat the Furies and save the Federation, Picard and crew of the USS Enterprise must first conquer the darkest terrors of their unconscious minds. Book 2 of the most exciting, epic crossover of all time. Alright, pretty good back. That doesn't give away too much of the story, so I can't really hate that. And again, yeah, it just really kind of relays the main theme of this book, which is just like this fear, this unrelenting fear that these Furies are using as their weapon. So, before we get into whole just spoiler breakdown of the whole thing, I will just say it's a good little TNG book. It's fun. It has a good bit of like really kind of heavy stuff at the beginning, but then it does get into some action and some fun stuff in the end too. But just the whole, I guess, the idea of the enemy's weapon and what it does is interesting, and just a fun little thing. And I would say, if anyone really shines in it, it would be Captain Picard. Everybody does kind of get to play a little bit of a role. It is kind of a, nobody has like a starring role, but everybody gets their part to shine. And there's a new character that they introduce, an old friend of Will's who's come on board the Enterprise, Lieutenant Sam Redbay. And he's an interesting character, and it becomes important there in the end as well. So anyway, yeah, Invasion. Book 2, very good. So let's just jump right into it, and we'll just kind of run through the story a little bit here and have fun with it. So the story starts out at this station, Brundage. I have trouble with that. Brundage Station, And this station was established near the original point where the Furies came out, 80 years ago. So there's a small group of officers that are there monitoring this point just in case anything happens. And of course, something does happen. They briefly kind of introduce and go through the different members of the station, but it's not too important. The one that I guess I will mention is Robert Young, who kind of takes like the first chapter there basically. But they notice that they have the mass drop event, which is kind of like the signaling that the Furies are going to come through. They all kind of know what's going to happen, and they all start feeling this like intense fear, and that's kind of how chapter one ends. Then chapter two kind of starts up with it introduces you to the new character, Sam Redbay. Him and Will are doing like some, I think like dog fighting in like old fighter jets, on the holodeck. So they just kind of introduce you to the new character there, and then they take you back to Brundage Station to introduce you to the enemy. And the enemy here, well, they don't name yet, is Virgo. That's like the Furies word for Captain Vidil. And basically, they describe him as like the gothic image of the devil. You've got the red skin, you've got like a black pig snout, you've got ram's horns instead of ears. When he talks, like maggots are coming out of his mouth and like maggots are coming out of his eyes. And basically, they've got this poor Robert Young tied down, and he's there to find out what terrifies him. So that's like it's a kind of a dark start because basically it's the devil, right? I mean, that's kind of like what they're putting this guy as, like the devil, right? And he's there to figure out what all humans fear. So, and he's got like this one guy strapped down, and there's nothing he can do. Oh, and they introduce another character there who's like maybe like the second in command anyway. But again, they don't focus on the Furies very much in this, just like maybe 2 or 3 chapters. But when they do, it is very interesting. The other character they mention is basically a Medusa with live snakes for hair. So, I don't know. It's, I don't know. The interesting thing about this book, I think, or about this whole series, is just that, I guess, the concept that all of these demons and images and things that were from our past came from this alien race that was, taking or conquering the galaxy at that time, which was very interesting to me, at least. I thought it was very cool. So, again, I took bad notes on this thing too, so we're gonna struggle. Anyway, Virgo Sedil is also what's known as a Z-Bub. So all of the Furies are like different species, different monsters, basically, for lack of a better word. And he's a Z-Bub, which is basically like a devil. So, but anyway, so he's torturing him, and then we go back to the Enterprise, where now they are given the news that they are the closest ship to the point. They've got a message from the station, and they've got to get there as fast as they can and see what's going on. So they get there, they hightail it to the station, and they are found basically like a nightmare. The Furies left the station and kind of set it up as almost like a horror show, so that it was meant to invoke fear. There were 4 officers on the station. 3 of them are killed, all of them in like horrible, horrific ways, being burned alive or other terrible things. And then the last one left is Robert Young, who they kept alive to kind of just spread the fear more, I guess. So they bring him aboard the ship, but he's basically catatonic with fear at this point. And Dr. Crusher is worried that there's really nothing they can even do to save him. So now the rest of the Fury ships, there's 5 of them, have kind of surrounded the wormhole and kind of appear to be guarding it at this time. So Picard approaches and establishes he wants to try to negotiate, of course, So he goes and he contacts them, and he makes first contact with Virgo Vidil. And as soon as he does that, the crew and the whole ship is hit with this immense feeling of fear. and he goes back, like in his mind, like he's going back to when he was a child and things that he went through, and then he's able to kind of like fight and work his way through it, and like come around, and then he looks around the bridge, and like some of the people are not able to handle it as well. Like one of them's collapsed crying. There's another one that's like banging his hand against the wall until it's bleeding. But he tries to get control of the crew and get control of the situation again, so they can try to figure out what is going on. But basically, everybody is feeling this awful, intense fear. They cut to Counselor Troy, who kind of is, I think she was sleeping, and she hears the voice of her mother kind of like warning her, you know. But then she is hit with everybody's intense fear as well. And basically is taken out. So like she's removed from the story at that point because it's just she cannot stay awake. And Dr. Crusher luckily gets to her just in time to sedate her so that she will not die from the overload of emotions. So okay, so maybe at this point, let me see. Maybe we're about halfway through the book here. When, yeah, here we go. Yeah, we're about halfway through here, and then like it's time to start turning it on them. So it's kind of weird though that the Furies don't. They shoot the fear beam or whatever at the Enterprise, but then they don't do anything else. They kind of just retreat back, and I think they expound upon that later, and they're saying like, well, they expected that. They just wanted them to surrender. That was the idea. They wanted to scare them into surrender, and that would be very honorable for them or whatever. But it just seems like they could have did that, and then maybe all 5 ships could have attacked the Enterprise and destroyed it. But that's fine. Because the story they did tell was very interesting. So Picard gets some advice from Guinan, in kind of a nice little, in the middle of the book scene, where she advises him and he's able to kind of take some things from that. But what's good here and what I really like is this is when like the crew of the Enterprise kind of like shows their stuff. And this Red Bay and Geordi work together, first off to figure out how this fear is being, you know, sent to them. And then they figure out a way to block the fear. So this is where like the new guy kind of shines a little bit, and they give him a chance to discover what the source of the problem was, and he finds out that it's a big beam that's being sent at them, and they manage to figure out a way to what do they say? It's a beam that like makes their minds access inner space, and inner space like can make you really crazy or something. So but they figure out a way to block that. And as soon as they do, they put like the shields, they rotate the harmonics to the right level or whatever, and then the fear starts going down. And then Dr. Crusher, she's also working at it too, and she finds a way to basically release like a gas into the environment there, which will also calm everybody down a little bit. So between everybody working together, they've been able to overcome the initial fear response. The Furies didn't think that they would be able to. They kind of thought, well, once we hit them with this, they're done. So now then you do get your first little kind of battle. They approach. You get like a nice little battle. They realize that the Furies also know something more about the shields because they're able to do some damage to the Enterprise and the shields. The Enterprise takes out one of their ships in the conflict. But they have to retreat a little bit so that they can... Basically, they have to drop their shields long enough to repair their shields. So they retreat out of the way of the beam, do that, repair the shields. I think Geordi gets it done, and he tells Captain Picard it'll be 8 minutes, but he gets it done in 7, like a true miracle worker that he is. And they're able to get back to... Basically, they head back to Fury Point, and they time their arrival back at Fury Point with their reinforcements. I think it's the Madison and the Idaho. Maybe I'm just making that up. But anyway, 2 Starfleet ships and 2 Klingon bird of preys arrive to reinforce the Enterprise. So now you do have 5 against 5. But we find out that what the Furies are guarding that hole for is because the whole fleet is basically lined up, ready to come through So they've got to find a way to close it. So they devise a plan after, I think Data actually is the one that kind of scanning and figuring things out, is able to figure out that if they take a shuttle through the wormhole and destroy the power source, which they've kind of located on the other side, they could close this thing for good. So they devise this plan. Basically, they're going to send 3 shuttles out, increase the chances of one of them getting through, and it's going to be basically the plan is, well, it's a suicide mission first off. They know that once they go through and they close the wormhole, they are stuck on the other side. So again, that's like another very dark part of this book too, is that basically Picard orders Riker to his death, right? You know, because he knows that he's like the best choice, and then he has Worf and Red Bay, you know, doing the other 2 backup shuttles. So the end of the book, the kind of the big climax, which is very fun and exciting, is the 3 shuttles making their maneuver to get into the wormhole. At the same time, while the Madison, the Idaho, the Enterprise, and the Bird of Prey, they're all trying to basically provide cover and distraction so that they can get their plan through. So Riker goes first, and he tries to get in. His ship is hit and knocked off course, and he's not able to make it, and he's like spinning out of control. Worf, he tries to go in, and same thing happens to him, except he's severely damaged, and he's kind of left floating dead in space. So then Red Bay sees that he's the last one left, the only opportunity to do it, and he has this maneuver that he came up with. He's like a fantastic pilot, called the Red Bay maneuver, where he does like this arching pattern, but then at a certain point in the pattern does a 90-degree turn, kicks on the warp engines for like a millisecond, and just shoots right into the wormhole. The problem is he has to have it aimed just right, or he's gonna, you know, overshoot it, and he's not gonna get a second chance. But he performs the maneuver, and gets right into the wormhole, and is able to find and destroy the power source before he is destroyed. Nothing more is said about him in the book. The wormhole is closed, and of course he's presumed dead. But there's 2 more books in this saga, so I'm thinking maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe he's coming back. So I'm hoping anyway, because his character was interesting, and this was pretty cool. I did enjoy that. So not too bad here. Okay, so he successfully makes it in, closes the wormhole. This part of the book is especially cool, I think, because they give you the perspective of each of the pilots of the shuttlecraft, you know. But then they also give you the perspective, again, from the Enterprise. So you get to see like all of these things happening from the bridge that you just read about happening. So I liked how they did that. That was a very, very cool way to end it. At the end, they close the wormhole. They beam Riker aboard just in time. They beam Worf aboard, but Worf is dead. He is physically dead. But Dr. Crusher gets to come in, save the day, and bring Worf back to life, because Klingons are sturdy, right? So like, you know, you can be dead for 25 minutes and you know, get a couple of zaps to the chest, and you're going to be coming back just fine. So Worf comes back fine, and then what am I forgetting in the end here? Big space battle. Worf comes back. Red Bay's lost on the other side of the wormhole. Oh, you know what I liked about this book too is I didn't know, but like the last bit like this is actually a preview of the next book. So like I was thinking I had a bunch more left, and then boom, it was done. It was a cool surprise. So I did kind of like that. But at the end, Picard and Riker have a drink for. Wait, did I get those names right? I did. It was the Idaho and the Madison. Oh, he's good. He's good. Anyway, yeah, I don't think I missed anything. Worf was back. Everybody's back. They were able to wake Counselor Troy up towards the end of it, and she was able to kind of come out and help a little bit. And I guess just let Picard know that the Furies were also still afraid of them, you know? And in the end, the 4 ships that were left, the Fury ships, Picard hailed them and wanted to, offer peace, basically, and they declined, and they all blew themselves up. So that was the end. uh, it was a very interesting book, very fun, and again, I like the character of Sam Redbay, and I'm hoping that he's going to show up. Maybe he's going to show up here in Time's Enemy, because that's what we're going to start reading next. Book 3 of 4 here, and we'll see how the DS9 crew deals with the Furies and all that. So that should be fun. So that's it. We are all set for this one. Thank you all so much for sitting here and watching me talk about a Star Trek book for 20 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and we will see you in the next one. Live long and prosper, and have a good night.